Ever get the feeling that a contract isn't quite what it seems, like something's just off?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to dive into a Philippine Supreme Court case
Okay.
that went kind of viral in the Philippines because it really makes you think about, like, what's fair when it
Hmm.
comes to loans and property.
Interesting.
It's a story of, like, alleged deceit, financial vulnerabilities, and the age-old tension between lenders and borrowers.
Yeah. I think we've all been there. It's a really relatable topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're talking about Froilan Dala versus Editha Auticio, Gio now, 27672, decided on June 22, 2022.
Okay.
Get ready, because this one goes deep.
This case is fascinating because it exposes how a contract, even one seemingly like official and legally binding,
Yeah.
can hide a completely different reality underneath.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it looks fine on paper,
Right.
but then, like, when you really get into it, it's like, oh, this is not what it said it was.
Yeah, and this case really gets into that. So the story starts with Froilan Dala. He needed money quickly.
Hmm.
And he borrowed $32,000 from Editha Auticio. She was a known moneylender.
Okay.
And to formalize the deal, they signed a document called a deed of sale under pacto de retro. And this involved a 1,378 square meter piece of land that Dala owned.
Now, a pacto de retro sale might sound kind of unfamiliar, so let's break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
It basically means that the buyer gets the property, but the seller, in this case Dala,
Right.
retains the right to buy it back within a certain period. So it's almost like, think of it like pawning a valuable item.
Okay, yeah.
You get a loan,
Mm-hmm.
but the pawn shop holds on to your item until you repay, and so here, the land was Dala's valuable item.
Yeah, so in this case, the agreement came with a 6-month deadline for Dala to repurchase his land. And as you might have guessed, things didn't quite go according to plan.
Uh-oh. So that's where the conflict comes in.
Yeah.
It sounds like a ticking time bomb was built into the agreement. So
Yeah.
what happened when that 6-month deadline passed?
Well, that's where the he said, she said comes into play.
Okay.
Dala claimed that the entire deal was actually a loan, disguised as a sale. He argued that the land was simply collateral
Oh,
and that the sale was just a formality.
Hmm.
Auticio, however, insisted it was a legitimate sale,
Okay.
with the option for Dala to repurchase, which, unfortunately, he missed.
So we've got two very different interpretations of the same agreement.
Yeah.
How did this dispute play out in the courts? Did they side with the lender or the borrower?
Initially, the case went to the regional trial court, and they acknowledged it as a pacto de retro sale,
Okay.
but they gave Dala a little bit of a break, an extra 30 days to buy back the land.
Okay.
But there was a significant interest payment added on top of the original loan amount.
So it sounds like the court was trying to find kind of like a middle ground,
Right.
like recognizing the sale but also giving Dala a chance to reclaim his property.
Right.
But I'm guessing he wasn't satisfied with that outcome.
You're right. Dala appealed the decision, still arguing that it was a loan disguised as a sale,
Okay.
hoping for a better outcome at the Court of Appeals. But things actually took a turn for the worse for him there.
Oh. What happened at the Court of Appeals? Did they see things differently than the lower court?
Not at all. The Court of Appeals fully supported Auticio,
Wow.
declaring her the outright owner of the land and shutting down any further chances for Dala to buy it back.
Wow. That must have been like a major setback for Dala.
Yeah,
Makes you wonder if he felt completely trapped by this agreement.
I'm sure.
So at this point, it seemed like Auticio had won, and Dala had lost his land for good. What happened next? Did Dala just accept defeat, or did he fight back?
Well, this is where the case takes a really dramatic turn. Dala decided to appeal to the highest court in the land, the Philippine Supreme Court.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat. The Supreme Court, that's the ultimate decider. What did they have to say about this whole situation? Did they uphold the previous rulings, or did they throw a wrench in the whole thing?
Let's just say the Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves through the legal community and beyond. They completely reversed everything.
Right.
They ruled that the agreement was actually an equitable mortgage all along, essentially recognizing it as a loan secured by the land, not a true sale.
Hold on. A complete reversal. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big deal. What made the Supreme Court take such a drastically different stance than the lower courts?
Yeah, the Supreme Court really dove deep into this one. They really highlighted how important context and power dynamics are when you're interpreting these kinds of agreements. They emphasized that Filipino law is designed to protect people from, predatory lending,
Right.
especially when there's a power imbalance. It's like they were acting as financial detectives,
Yeah.
peeling back the layers to see the truth behind this contract.
Absolutely. And that's a question that we should all be asking, not just when we're talking about formal loans, but like in any situation where one person has a lot more power or resources than the other.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if Auticio was intentionally using this type of contract
Right.
to exploit people who were desperate for money.
That's certainly possible, and the Supreme Court seems to have recognized that. They specifically pointed out 3 key factors that led them to believe that this wasn't a simple sale.
Okay.
So first, they noted that Dala continued to live on the land even after the supposed sale.
That does seem suspicious. It's almost like she knew he wouldn't have anywhere else to go.
Right.
Why would someone sell their land
Right.
and then keep living there?
Exactly. It doesn't really add up. The second point they focused on was the price itself.
Okay.
They found the $32,000 to be way too low
Yeah.
for a plot of land that size. It suggests that the transaction was more about securing a debt than reflecting the true market value of the property.
So the numbers themselves were a red flag. But even if Dala suspected something was off, like he might have felt like he had no other choice,
Yeah.
like to accept the terms.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation to be in.
That's the reality for a lot of people facing financial hardship. And that brings us to the third and perhaps most crucial point
Okay.
that the Supreme Court highlighted. The inclusion of a clause that allowed Auticio to just automatically take ownership of the land
Mm-hmm.
if Dala missed a single payment deadline. This type of clause is known as a pactum commissorium, and it's actually illegal in the Philippines.
I've never heard of that before. Why is pactum commissorium considered illegal? Like, what makes it so problematic?
Well, pactum commissorium is seen as illegal because it gives the lender like an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
It allows them to seize the collateral without going through the proper legal processes of foreclosure. Imagine if you pawned something and the pawn shop could just keep it forever if you missed a payment, like without any legal recourse.
That would be completely unfair. It's like a system designed to trap people in debt.
Exactly. It's seen as a way to exploit borrowers, particularly those who might be in a difficult financial situation
Right.
and might not fully understand the implications of such a clause.
So it sounds like the Supreme Court was sending a clear message. Contracts can't be used as a weapon to take advantage of people, especially when they're already struggling.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Supreme Court recognized that this loan wasn't fair. How did they actually fix things for Dala? Did they just, declare the whole contract void?
They took decisive action to rectify the situation. They ordered the tax records to be corrected to reflect Dala as the rightful owner of the land.
That's a good start. It restores his ownership on paper, but what about the money that he borrowed?
Right.
Still had a debt to repay.
Right. You're absolutely right. And the Supreme Court didn't simply let him off the hook. While they sided with Dala on the nature of the agreement, they acknowledged the validity of the loan itself.
Okay.
They granted him the right to redeem his land by repaying the original loan amount, plus the accrued interest.
So it was a compromise, a recognition of both Dala's rights and Auticio's claim as a lender.
Yeah.
Do you think this ruling will have any lasting impact on how these types of contracts are viewed and enforced in the future?
It definitely sets a precedent. It sends a message to lenders that they can't just hide behind the technicalities of a contract to exploit borrowers.
Right.
The court made it clear that fairness and the intent behind the agreement mattered just as much as the wording itself.
Yeah, absolutely. This case really shines a light on a broader issue that goes beyond just this one specific situation, the problem of predatory lending.
Mm-hmm.
These types of practices, often targeting those who are already struggling financially,
All right.
are sadly more common than we'd like to think.
It's true.
It's heartbreaking to think that some people are taking advantage of others in such a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the law isn't just some abstract concept. It has real-world consequences that can either help or hurt people.
Exactly. And this case emphasizes how important strong consumer protection laws are and ways to hold lenders accountable when they engage in shady or illegal practices.
It also makes me think about how important it is for everyone to understand their rights.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to financial matters.
Absolutely.
Knowledge really is power in these situations.
I couldn't agree more. Equal access to justice is so important. Everyone, regardless of their financial situation, should have the ability to, like, navigate the legal system and seek help if they've been treated unfairly. You know what really stands out to me about this case?
What's that?
It's the fact that Dela, despite facing, like, seemingly insurmountable odds, didn't give up. He kept fighting for what he believed was right, and in the end, the justice system worked in his favor. It's a reminder that even when things seem hopeless, there's always a chance for things to turn around.
Yeah, it's a real David versus Goliath story.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even if we don't have a law degree, we can still arm ourselves with knowledge and seek help when we need it. For our listener who's been with us on this deep dive, what's the most important thing you'd want them to take away from this case?
I'd say it's the importance of uh, approaching any contract, any agreement with a critical eye. Read carefully, ask questions, and if there's anything you don't understand, get help from someone who does. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and make sure your rights are protected.
That's such valuable advice. And remember, even if you find yourself in a difficult financial situation, it's not the end of the road. There are resources available, organizations that can help,
Right.
and legal avenues that you can pursue to fight for a fair outcome.
Yeah.
This case proves that justice is possible, even against powerful adversaries.
Well said. This case is a testament to the fact that the legal system, while not perfect, can be a force for good, protecting the vulnerable and ensuring that agreements are just and equitable.
This has been an incredible deep dive into a case that really captures the complexities of law, power, and the fight for fairness. If you found this episode as fascinating as we did, hit that subscribe button and join us next time as we delve into another compelling story from the world of law. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and always remember, knowledge is your best defense.